This is VikesNow, Dustin Baker, the Tuesday, June 21st edition. We're going to talk about Ndamukong Suh. You know this topic was going to come up as soon as it hit, that credible rumor status, which occurred this afternoon. Thanks to a guy named Tyler Dragon, when his verified Twitter account first tweeted it, I had to make sure that it wasn't parody. Mainly wanted to see if Tyler Dragon was a real name because it sounds like a Bruce Lee type of character. But alas, the guy is real. He sounds really cool. He's from the USA Today. He covers the NFL. So it seems right now, June 21st, that the Ndamukong Suh decision or sweepstakes is down to the Las Vegas Raiders, who Suh himself said, hey, they're shiny and I'm interested. And according to Dragon, the Vikings, which kind of fell out of the sky. In fairness, about 3 weeks ago, Bleacher Report published an article about Suh's landing spots, or maybe it was just something every team should add. And it was right after Hakeem Hicks signed with the Bucs, which meant Suh was kind of an orphan. And somebody at Bleacher Report said that he should sign with the Vikings. And that does check out a little bit because the team does have about $11 million in cap space. And it could stand to improve on the interior defensive line if they wanted to, get with Suh and his reputation. But here we are talking about Ndamukong Suh potentially playing for the 2022 Vikings. One thing that surprised me in the first couple of hours after the Tyler Dragon tweet was that the fan base, I don't know if I'd say is split, but the embrace of Suh in purple clothes wasn't necessarily universal. I think the fear is that he would take snaps away from young dudes, and hell, the guy's 35 years old. How much does he have left in the tank? But it wasn't necessarily like a slam dunker like Larry Fitzgerald would have been a couple years ago, if he would have been signed by the Vikings, which would have been welcomed by everybody. So yeah, I don't think that every single Vikings fan wants Suh in the building, maybe because of his just the reputation that surrounds him, or they just think he cuts into younger guys' snaps, which would occur. So let's get this out of the way, that Suh had a down year last year. Quietly, his Pro Football Focus grade was 49.4. That's pretty shitty, especially for Ndamukong Suh, who's probably going to the Hall of Fame, if that aforementioned reputation allows for it. But no matter where he signs, whether it's the Raiders, Vikings, or some other club, Suh has to determine or prove that 2021 wasn't an age-related decline or down year, and instead show that it was an outlier, that he'll be back and better than ever, and he'll be 36 on January, I think, 8th or something like that. So, he's getting up there. One of the major flashing marquee billboard things is that Suh would start right away. If you don't like Suh, I got bad news for you. He's not going to go somewhere and be a backup unless the season starts to go poorly for him and it's wildly evident that that's his role now. But Suh is a habitual starter, and he's started forever. So wherever he ends up, whether it's with the Raiders, Vikings, or a different team, he's going to start. So you better get used to that, especially if it buzzes to your smartphone that he's signing with the Minnesota Vikings. Armon Watts, in my opinion, would be the odd man out. Because Michael Pierce missed a bunch of time last year, Watts filled in admirably. And if there is no Suh relationship, Watts should be one of the starting defensive tackles for the 2022 Vikings in Ed Donatell's flashy new 3-4 system. However, Suh comes to Minneapolis, Watts goes to DT2, and he would, he'd play rotationally, but Suh would put butts in seats and himself would start. So instantly, in a matter of moments, if Suh is greenlit by the Vikings, then that means Watts is the odd man out, at least as a starter job. But what I want you to do is think about the defensive five-some of these Vikings. And usually when we do this, you think about every player in his purest form. So for Suh, you're thinking about the 2012 or 2014 version, whatever. I get that that's not how it's going to work. But at least on a depth chart, or just examining how things might play out, on the edges of the line, you have Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith. Bada bing. About as ferocious as it gets for a healthy tandem of those two guys. And then in the middle, you have, in theory, Ndamukong Suh, Harrison Phillips, and Dalvin Tomlinson. So Hunter, Phillips, Suh, Tomlinson, and then Zadarius Smith. That's a fivesome to be desired, that you should want. Not that leaves some to be desired, but a fivesome that is actually pretty damn fantabulous, especially for a new coaching staff to play around with. And if that fivesome doesn't excite you, well, then just smash it down to a threesome in Hunter, Suh, and Zadarius Smith. Those are titans of industry, names that people know, even casual football fans. So I think the personnel, it's hard to say that Suh would be an instant upgrade because of the down year last year, but at least for getting your mojo flowing for 2022, his name would be a marquee one to be added to the Vikings up front on the defense. And in some ways, it'd feel like the team, ever so slowly, just brick by brick, is becoming a mini version of the Rams if Suh comes aboard, because the Vikings roster already has tons of big-name talent, or at least what we perceive as Vikings fans as big-name talent. The one iffy part is the defensive depth, in my opinion, probably your opinion too. But Suh helps with that. All of a sudden, you have a star-studded depth chart with all those defensive names that I just rattled off, plus Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, Patrick Peterson. It really has a poor man's Rams vibe, if you will. And they probably won't win a Super Bowl. The Vikings probably won't, but they would have the people there that if they started to play well, or they got to the postseason or won a playoff game, you'd look at the roster and be like, well, of course they did. Look at all these guys. Look at Harrison Smith, Patrick Peterson, Ndamukong Suh, Zadarius Smith, Adil Hunter. I mean, there's a lot of guys in their purest, in their best form that can make a lot of noise. Mentioned a few minutes ago that Ndamukong Suh has never missed a game to injury, and that's noteworthy because if he did become a Viking, he's probably going to play. He's probably not going to get hurt unless this is the one time in his career he joins the Vikings and starts getting hurt. He missed a couple games for the suspension of stomping on the dude's face 10 years ago, but other than that, Suh is like Kirk Cousins, and they are Iron Men. They don't come off the field. They don't miss games. Of course, Cousins missed the COVID game last year, but Suh never missed a professional football game because of injury. So there's no reason to believe that would suddenly start if he joined the Vikings. Overall, he's smart, he's vicious, and he's reputable. People know him. So I think there is cause for excitement, especially because there's 32 teams in the NFL, and the two rumored squads to be associated with Suh in the middle of June are your Vikings and the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a 1 out of 16 chance that your favorite team would be associated with Suh. Rounding out the show for today, this season should, in theory, be Suh's swan song, or if this isn't his final year, we're hitting the generalized final installment of his career, because I said earlier he's going to be 36 years old, and that's pretty damn old for an interior defensive lineman. So no matter where he signs, this is the end of the road for him. He's already won one Super Bowl in 2020 with Tom Brady and the Bucs when they beat the Chiefs' asses in the pandemic season. But this isn't a long-term thing. This would be a murder-for-hire type of thing, joining the Vikings for probably a season, maybe two, if he just looks fantastic. And then aside from all the analysis and stats and fivesomes and threesomes and who's going to go to the bench if he gets there, it'd be cool to have Ndamukong Suh. He's been the enemy for so long. He's played 11 games against the Vikings in his career. Somehow or another, teams with Suh on them are 7-4 against the Vikings. It's never really felt like that, but evidently he played with the Lions when they sort of had the Vikings numbers or some damn thing, because, I pulled his splits on stathead.com, and he is 7-4 against the Vikings. So he's never had too many personal problems playing against the purple team. And then finally, when I retweeted the Tyler Dragon tweet this afternoon, a couple folks pointed out that Suh's wife is from Minnesota. So if you buy into those associations, those ties, his kids evidently either are from here or have ties to Minnesota. So that could be a drawing factor in addition to a fancy roster, or what we, the people, perceive as a fancy roster. Patrick Peterson thinks it's fancy. That he's from Minnesota. So there's little things that connect here and there, that the Suh stuff isn't necessarily bullshit. And I would have told you about a week or two ago that it would be a long shot for Suh to join the Vikings, chiefly because there are 32 teams in the NFL, and why the hell would he pick the purple team? His wife's from Minnesota, and this thing is starting to heat up a little bit. It sounds like it'll come down to the Raiders and Vikings, and we shall see if Kwesi Adofo-Mensah spends some of his $11 million remaining on Ndamukong Suh. That is the Tuesday edition of VikesNow. We'll be back Wednesday with a new purple topic and Skol, baby.